Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining me for this guide on cash flows and budgeting. My name is Eric Amzalag. I do comprehensive financial planning and investment advising for my clients at Peak Financial Planning. This presentation is titled Cash Flows, the Lifeblood of Your Financial Goals. And whatever your situation in life, my opinion is that this is one of the most important life skills that gets left behind in the traditional education system. So my goal today is to go through a three-part system that I use with clients at my business Peak Financial Planning, and hopefully leave you with some actionable methods and tools that will help you set up a sound financial management system. And just to give you a quick look ahead, the principle here is that cash flows are the fuel, the lifeblood of your financial goals. Just like your vascular system, your arteries and your blood flow in your body, the vehicle for the blood that transports nutrients, oxygen, and all of your body's vital necessities to your organs and muscle tissue. And just like when you train for a physical goal, let's say you're trying to go for a max deadlift or train for a marathon, you need optimal blood flow. You need to be optimizing your nutritional intake, your supplementation, so that you're facilitating good blood flow, so that it will help your muscle tissues and your body recover and benefit from the training. So it's very hard to train, but continue to eat pizza and cookies every day. You won't get the results you want. And so just as with the physical health analogy, saving for your goals in life, saving to invest, to accumulate wealth and build wealth, or to have a secure retirement or financial independence, whatever your goal, is really facilitated by having a plan, which is your cash flows, a management system for your cash flows, so that you can actually achieve the goals you set. What we're talking about today is the first part in a three-part series that I would call building a financial pyramid. And I chose the analogy of a pyramid because these are these ancient buildings that were built with super basic technology, nothing like what we have today, and yet they've lasted for thousands of years. And the idea is based on physics, which is you need a very wide, solid, sturdy foundation upon which you can add other layers until you reach a pinnacle or a point at the top that by itself would not be very stable. And so that's what we're dealing with today. So today we'll be going over a cash flow system. In the next video I make next week and the following week after that, we'll be going through part 2 and part 3, which are what I call the money tree system, which is a flowchart or visualization where you assign savings values and you work backwards to start by saving in order to achieve your goals. And then part 3, this is a more advanced system that is usually reserved for businesses, but I have used it for personal finances, especially with families, for myself, all my clients. So I highly recommend that there's using it. There's an adaptable style, and I'll be going over that in the third video. The idea there is you're progressing from building a skill at the bottom, which is cash flow management and awareness, into moving up towards the pinnacle where you start to automate things because you have a really solid feel for your actual cash flows. And you need to start from the bottom in order to get to the top. So moving forward, quick, Dave Ramsey here on the side of the screen, and he is a radio host, money personality, and he does have some strong opinions, but not to focus on Dave Ramsey, he has this quote here, and I think it's quite accurate, which is, you've got to tell your money what to do, or it will leave. And the principle behind here is that, in our daily life, we have money in and money out. And our goal as a family, as an individual, as a business owner, is to capture as much of our money as we can and direct where it goes proactively, not reactively. The challenge here is that when we're reactive, we're trying to take whatever's left and hoping it will be sufficient. So our goal today, our mission here with this presentation, is to try to create a proactive cash flow management system where you tell your money what to do. And how do you build that skill and habit? So quick story here. When I started my business in the 2010s, I started a gym business. I watched my income like a hawk and my expenses like a sloth. And I think a lot of us are like this. We definitely know what we're paying ourselves out of our business or what we're getting on our pay stub from our employer, but we rarely have a real dialed in vision of our expenses. And so it's just like this chart here, which we have income minus expenses. We usually know our income, don't know our expenses. We're hoping for a positive at the end of the month, but we really don't know what's left over. And I had this experience at the gym business, which was I had cash flows coming through. I was dialed into my income. I'd check my spreadsheets daily, my bank statements even, but I wasn't dialed into my expenses. And so oftentimes the month would end and I'd think I had this much profit or this much to comp myself, and I didn't. And so the trick is to try to figure out what to do with that. So, a couple other quotes here. This is Aristotle, and his quote here is "Through discipline comes freedom." And what we're talking about here is just that. And Jocko Willink might be the more modern version of Aristotle, and he has a book titled "Discipline is Freedom." And the principle is we need to build a new habit that we did not have from our younger days or our earlier experiences that helps us manage our cash flows. And we have to really think of it like a process of skill building. We need to build a new skill that we don't have. We need to set up a framework so that we have small but achievable steps to build that skill, accountability so that we can build that skill over time, and so that it sticks. And so I have a 3-step process that I work through with clients, and we're going to go through that right now. So step 1 in the process is to assess. So just like in fitness, if you wanted the best results to train for a marathon or to achieve a great deadlift or to do a bodybuilding show or a physique show, you have to know where you're beginning in order to know how to build the optimal plan for where you're going. So cash flow is the same. The question is, how much are you actually spending? And we can use software tools that are very helpful to look backwards and forwards to find out what our spending habits are. And I'll show you a demo of those tools and we'll walk through them together. So we start with assessment. From there, we plan. So after we've done the assessment and have a baseline, we're going to set targets for your spending that align with your savings and investing goals. And then you'll continue to track your spending habits and execute in order to build the habit. And the key here is we need this habit to stick. We need some months of data to know where we're going. So again, back to the fitness analogy, if you want to run a marathon and you want to have a target speed, you're not just going to assess. What you're going to do is set a plan for how you're going to achieve your target speed and your deadline for running that marathon. And then for the months leading up to the marathon, you're going to track what you're doing. You're going to have the plan, and then you're going to reconcile what you did to that plan. Were you faster that day? Were you slower that day? Did you run less that day? Did you run more? Were you feeling like you're getting injured? Same thing with our finances. So we create the plan, but a plan is nothing if we don't reconcile what our actual habits are to the plan. And so that's really what we're doing at phase 2 is we're setting the plan, we're executing, we're going to continue to back and forwards track our spending and reconcile what our targets are to what we actually spend, and then have discussions with ourselves about how to get those in line with each other. And then finally, the third part here is to automate. So once planned spending habits become second nature, you can automate your savings for your goals and spend what's left. The trick here is that the planned spending habits have to become second nature. And so that means you need adequate amount of time of building this new skill so that you're really keyed in to these things so that you can automate the savings and not deviate. Like once you set it and forget it, the odds are if you're not practiced and sticking, that these habits aren't sticky, you'll deviate. You earn this privilege by sticking to your plan for long periods of time. And another great health analogy would be like weighing and measuring food. It's a very taxing skill, but once you weigh and measure your food for a period of time, you'll have a really good eye for how much food you're eating, how many calories that equates to, what kind of macros, and you'll be able to take your foot off the pedal of using that gram scale, using MyFitnessPal every day. But you have to do the weighing and measuring and using MyFitnessPal for weeks, maybe even months, in order to build that eye. And then you can take your foot off the pedal. So you earn the privilege of taking your foot off the pedal and automating by sticking to something for an extended period of time and proving to yourself that you can. Now, the thing here, I'm going to pause for a second and connect this to like personal things, is that this isn't just like something you need to do or should do. If you want to build wealth, this is the type of thing that the most successful business owners, the most successful wealth builders are doing. So this is unseen and therefore hard to walk around in society and see someone who you aspire to be or who is a role model and say, oh yeah, this is definitely a thing they're doing. I should know just by looking at them to do this. But the fact of the matter is, people that build large, successful scaling businesses, or people that have the ability to build wealth and buy investment property or make successful investment decisions, are often doing that on the back of the foundation of a sound financial management system at home. So moving along here, My last health and fitness analogy is that stability leads to flexibility. And you can see this guy over here in the picture is a super muscular man, but he has this incredible level of flexibility. He's able to stay on one leg, balance, lean, stretch. And what you really need is you need strong, stable muscles so that your body will allow you to relax into these extended, flexible positions. Finances are the same. We want to build a system that provides stability so that you have predictability, you know your cash flows, you know where things are going, what you're spending on. In order for you to have some flexibility and feel less anxiety about spending decisions, to feel less anxiety about whether you're going to meet your savings goals or not, whether you can do supplemental things like travel or fun purchases. Oftentimes we make ourselves feel guilty, or we just ignore these things altogether because we know that we don't have a stable system upon which to balance these decisions. So I have a couple recommended tools, and we're going to do a demo of them really quickly as well. Right Capital is a financial planning software I use with all my clients at Peak Financial Planning. It's nice that it has a built-in budgeting and cash flow management feature that I can use to work with clients. We can build it out together, set up categorization systems. It is very useful to integrate into the financial planning tool because it will feed all the other financial planning forecasts, things like balance sheets and cash flow statements and projections and things like that in our financial plan. So that is one tool that is available to PeakFP clients. And the other tool that I highly recommend is Every Dollar by Dave Ramsey. It's actually a more robust tool. There's a free version that has some limiting features, and there's a paid version. There's no, by the way, just as a disclosure, there's no affiliate here. I don't get paid or compensated. I just really believe in the tool Every Dollar by Dave Ramsey. It's very robust, very useful, and it's very, very simple to use and very visually appealing. And so in a couple seconds here, I'm going to jump into a quick click through demo of each tool to show you how I would actually begin step one and step two of this process. And just to repeat, step one is assess. Step two is plan. Alrighty, so here we are in Every Dollar, and I'm gonna take you through a quick walkthrough of it so you can see. I built a mock budget in here, and I'm gonna actually show you all the tools and the tasks here. So we want to analyze spending in order to get an idea of our baseline. The best way to do this is to sign up for Every Dollar or for Right Capital and begin by linking your accounts. So you can see here on Every Dollar, there's a system here that allows you to link all the different accounts that you have. And so Amanda and I have many, many accounts because we use a profit first system, which I alluded to earlier. And I will show the profit first system in several weeks when I make that video. But for now, my recommendation is to link the accounts you have, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 credit cards, whatever, your bank account for debit transactions, because what will happen next is it'll pull all your transactions into the system and then allow you to categorize them. And I'm just showing you here as a quick demo. Here's a list of all the transactions that we have going back many, many weeks and months. And all of these, because I'm up to date on my budget here, have been tracked and are set up so that they're assigned a category. But if you're beginning in step one, your first step is to come in here and link your accounts, number one. And then number two, go through here and set up some basic categories. And I'm going to show you the basic list of categories that I use with clients and how Every Dollar works. So at the top here, we have income. I put in here a section for paycheck and a section for profit with a planned income amount. And one of the reasons I like Every Dollar over Right Capital is because it allows you to see income and expenses with this nice nifty tool at the top here that says what's left to budget, which helps you see, are you underspending or overspending based on your planned amount. Right Capital, you have to run separate reports in order to find that. So I do find that Every Dollar, this is an advantage. But going through this, you'd start by putting your income at the top and then going and setting up categories as you move down. So I'm going to skip this section here because this is a profit first tool that is not useful for this presentation, and move down. So you might have housing expenses. You might have, we have a water tank for our fitness business, utilities, and go through and set the category and then the planned amount you expect to spend. Now, you may not know, and what you're going to do is just put the category there. And then when the transaction comes through in here, you're going to take that transaction and you're going to drag it from this transactions dashboard into the actual category. And it will now show as money that was spent. And by the end of that month, you'll know how much you spent on utilities or on water or on so on and so forth, gas, groceries, whatever. So the idea here is that you use the first month in order to assess because you actually just don't know what this is supposed to look like. So continuing to move down, you can see that you can go category by category. And so step one is analyze your spending by first putting these categories in. Don't worry about assigning planned amounts, and then spending the first month taking these transactions and dragging them into the appropriate bubble. Now, one of the benefits of every dollar here is that it will actually pull 3 months of back transactions. So you can actually go and make a August or July or June budget and pull your back transactions and actually do the categorization. Just drag the transaction into the right category. And so that will actually speed the process up. By doing 3 months of back transactions, you'll actually start with the baseline of knowing how much you spend on each category. And now you can actually begin to plan. So the idea would be you can skip ahead, skip some steps, and begin the planning process and continue to execute. Once you've done that and you actually do the categorization and you have how much you've spent, now we're going to go in and say, how much do we want to plan to spend? You're going to look through each category and say, is this too much? Is this something I can control? And then, is this too much? So let's use restaurants or dining out. Common category where we tend to overspend. And you might find that you have a thought in your head that you spend $300 a month as a family or whatever on restaurants and dining out, but it comes in at $1,000. And then what is possible to find is that you actually don't have money left over to budget. Money left over to budget would be allocated towards savings goals or saving strategies. And what we really want to do, like Dave Ramsey says, is tell our money where to go. So what we want to do is assign a proactive amount to a category like restaurants. So let's keep it low so that we can create more space up here in the money left to budget so that we can actually assign this money left to budget at the top here to the things we want. Let's say travel, let's say buying a house, whatever your goals are. On and on down the line, you would go doing this exercise so that you set planned amounts. Okay, the key here is to stop right there in this plan stage, and now you're going to execute for 2 to 3 months. So 2 to 3 months, you're going to categorize transactions and see and prove to yourself, one, that you can do the exercise of logging into every dollar, and it has a mobile app that is very friendly, logging in, categorizing your transactions, and proving to yourself that you can stick to the system. This would be basically like a bookkeeping system for a business, but I recommend treating a family or an individual or even your business as a business. Do your own bookkeeping because it gets you in touch with your cash flow, with your lifeblood system of your financial goals. Doing a couple months of this will build the skill. It will also tell you if you're frequently deviating from certain categories so you can learn where you need more discipline. From there, you can set more specific budget targets and help yourself improve your habits on your weak areas. The goal is to get to stage 3, where you've spent time training yourself to be more in line with your desired spending goals, to create savings infrastructure, let's call it, and living up to those commitments you make to yourself so that in step 3, you can automate savings in advance of spending. We're going to go over that in another video, so I'm not going to go deeper down that rabbit hole. All right, so to kind of wrap this up, the question is how to make budgeting habit that sticks. Step 1, set up your budget in Right Capital or Every Dollar, but begin by setting up that budget and doing your back transactions. Step 2, commit to your practice. Add it to your calendar. So just like if you were to train for a marathon or start going to the gym or become someone who wants to be healthy and lose weight, whatever the case is, or optimize, you're going to add it to your calendar and carve space and time for this because it's a new thing and you're not going to have that space and time available just naturally. I highly recommend for the first 2 months adding in a recurring calendar event. That's a 5-minute calendar event. That's early in the morning or late at night, whatever works for you, that just pops up on your phone and says, do your Every Dollar or do your Right Capital transaction categorization so that you don't forget. Because what will happen is if you forget for 2 weeks and you go back to it, you're going to have a mountain of transactions, and that's going to deter you from keeping up the habit. So if doing it on a daily basis reduces friction by limiting how much you'll have to do each day versus coming at the end of the month and having 600 transactions and just being overwhelmed by the scope of the project and then avoiding it. Step 3, set up check-ins. Give yourself accountability. So if you're in a relationship, set up some accountability by setting up a conversation with your spouse or your significant other. If you have family or friends who you can talk to about this, give yourself a reason to follow through. And the best as humans, one of the most powerful ways is not to set up accountability for ourselves, but to set up accountability with an external source. We're much less likely to let down someone else that we've told a commitment to than we are to let ourselves down. So try to set up some accountability, whether that's in a weekly form or a bi-weekly form or a monthly form. Set up a regular cadence that keeps you accountable to looking back at the work you've done. And then last but not least, don't be shy. Ask for help. If this is something that you think could be beneficial, again, my opinion is this is beneficial for everybody if you want to optimize your wealth building power. Ask for help. I'm happy to speak to anybody who would like. If you're a client or not a client, please just drop a line. You can find my contact information on my website. You can leave a comment here on YouTube or wherever you're watching this video. I genuinely want to help. And I think the biggest hurdle is just getting started. So wherever you're at in this process, try to give this a shot. And again, don't be shy. Seek help from someone who you either know is already doing it. If you need a professional financial advisor, that's also a good source. But there are many good resources and tools in order to do this. To wrap up here, having a cash flow management system is the foundation of the pyramid upon which your wealth building skills will be built. And so just get started, do what you can. This process might take a few attempts in order to succeed, and that's quite all right. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the task at hand, and I look forward to hearing about your progress.